Hello, this is Derek from Future Vision and Growth Norman. Today I am so excited. I'm excited because this lesson, or what I'm about to do, this workshop, if you will clarify a lot for you. It will create a very real, probably interesting conversation, maybe a little struggle, but ultimately it's a subject we need to talk about, which is how do we determine what our priorities are? I'm going to help you. I'm going to help your organizations. I'm going to help your businesses. I'm going to help your families. I'm going to help you clarify that and get you to the core of what you believe and the core of what your priorities are. And it's going to be difficult. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell you some things that are going to be a little jarring. I'm going to tell you some things that go against what you've been taught, against what you may believe, but I want you to sit and think about it. I want you to feel the feelings that you feel when I say it, feel the feelings when you do what I ask you to do in this activity, but I also want you to sit back and think about what I'm telling you because I think it is very important. I've been doing this lesson for over a decade with my students in college classes, all ages, from all different backgrounds, and it is fantastic because they start out and they're a little unnerved after we're done. Like literally months later, they're like, we love that lesson. That was the most impactful. It changed everything that we think about what we're doing, and it has made a massive impact in our life. So, with that being said, let me explain the process. I'm going to give you this in a workshop style. So, what I will do is I will tell you what I want you to do. Then I'll have a brief pause. When I have a brief pause, and what I'm saying, I'll say, please pause this video. What I want you to do is pause the video at that point, do the activity until you get what I'm asking for, then press play again, and then we'll kind of walk you through the next steps. The more you do this in sequence, the better. And to work on this, it is better to do it in a group. It could be a family group, it could be a couple group, it could be 4 or 5 people at a time. I wouldn't do more than 4 and 5. So if you have a group of 10 or 15, split up into 3 different groups and you can do different things. If I'm in a classroom setting or a workshop setting and you have a whiteboard, I like for people to put the priorities up on the whiteboard. But if not, you can do it on paper and you can sit and do it amongst each other. And I'll give you examples as we go along. But let me start with this. The very first thing that I want you all to do is I would like you to write down your top 5 priorities. Now, understand these are not priorities that are based on only your workplace or your home place. These are life priorities. So, everyone in the group, I want you to come together collectively and write your priorities, not individually. This is you as a group collectively. So, if it's a couple, you guys together. If it's a group of 4 or 5, everyone together. I want you to sit down and talk and say, what is our top 5 life priorities? And then I'll give you my list when we come back. So let me go ahead and let you pause right here for about 5 minutes and let you guys get those priorities on paper. Welcome back. I hope that you guys enjoyed that activity, had a chance to talk and visit and really look at like what your priorities are. Let me give you my list. Now, this list is not my actual personal list. It is a list to show you, kind of model it after that. My priorities are being happy, traveling, money, family, and shopping. So traditionally, I've always had people talk about their lists and say what they wrote down because I think it's important for people to hear those lists. Now, the next thing that I will ask a person, I'm going to ask you, is this: where are you on the list? Where are you on the list? And if you said, oh, mental health, or you said, I like to go on vacation every once in a while, that's not putting you on the list. You literally have to say the word me or myself on the list. If you are not on the list, then you have done it wrong. Your priorities are not right. This is where people start to get uncomfortable because I'm about to tell you something that goes against everything you've ever learned, everything you've ever heard, everything that culture tells you should do, which is sacrifice. You should give unto others, and you should always give up yourself. I am telling you that the number one thing on your priorities list should be yourself. Should be you. If you're not on the list, if your name is not even near the list, then guess what? That's a problem. Why? Because you are going into whatever you're doing empty. You are going into whatever you're doing without taking care of yourself. You are literally walking into an organization or a family or a relationship or whatever and saying, I'm not coming in whole because I'm not taking care of myself. I'm sacrificing myself for everything else that I'm doing. What that does is that messes some people up. Parents are one of the worst. If you're a parent, I'm sorry, you're probably one of the worst. Why? Because what happens is your kids should be third. Are you having feelings right now? I know you probably are. You're like, your children should be third. They should not be first. Why? Because one, you should take care of yourself. You should know what is it you need to do to take care of yourself, whether that means going to get your nails done, making sure that you're eating healthy, getting enough rest, having good social interactions, you are having a balanced life. That's first. That's you personally. Then secondly, if you're married, then it should be your spouse. Why? Because if you and your spouse are both taking care of yourselves, then you both turn to take care of each other. Guess what? Your children get to watch a healthy relationship. Do you have any idea the ramifications that can make in our family systems if we took care of each ourselves first and our spouses second? Like that would be amazing. We could change the way the society works if we simply did that. Because then your children get to see a healthy relationship. Because you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of each other. Then guess what? It's your kids. Then you take care of your kids. And I have two boys, and let me tell you, they like to interject and they like to be the center of everything. And if there's an emergency, no, they come first. You deal with that. But ultimately, I come back to, I'm going to take care of my wife. Why? Because guess what? My kids are leaving. My kids are going to move out. They're going to go to college at some point. And who am I going to be left with? I'm not going to be left with my kids. I'm going to be left with my spouse. I don't want to wait till 18 years later and find out who is this person that I'm married to because I have given everything I have to my children and don't know my spouse anymore. That is a tough situation to be in. So let's make sure that we're maintaining ourselves first. Secondly, our spouse, and then third, our children. And let me give you a real world example. I had a single father that really he was fighting in court for his child. And he's like, my child is first. And he was driving 2.5 hours to go to school. So he was like seriously doing his job to come to my class to make sure that he was doing the best thing he could for his son. So every parent's like, yeah, he's doing that. And I said, no, you're wrong. I said, you should be first. And he's like, nope. And he argued and he fought and we walked out of class. I walked him to his car and he was arguing all the way saying, you're wrong, Mr. Jensen. It's all about the kids. You're wrong. I'm fighting for everything. I'm working. I'm doing everything for my child. I said, okay. And I waited. And a couple of months later, he came to class and he was very, very sick. And I got right in front of him and I said, and how are you for your son now? And that's when it clicked for him. That's when it made sense. As I said, if you are taking care of your physical needs, if you're taking care of your sleep, if you're taking care of the things you need, you are healthier. For you to be healthy means that you are optimum, ready to take care of your kids' needs after you've taken care of yourself and your spouse. In his case, himself and then his child. So this is not to say don't give, not at all. This is simply to say that when you take care of yourself, you have more to give. You have more energy to take care of things. You are not depleted. You have an opportunity to go out and really do some things and help some people. So that happens. It's hard on mamas for me to say that because they're like, I mean, the mom world says you've got to sacrifice everything for your children. And we're like, nope. I said, I need you to take care of yourself. Because again, that taking care of themselves also is something their children watch. Your kids are going to watch you and how you do things. If you are taking care of yourself and your spouse and they see that, then what they have learned from you is that we are important. We need to take care of ourselves, and then we will move to the next thing. So that is fantastic. So hopefully you're on the list. But let's say that you're not. Or here we go, let me do it differently. Let's say you're an individual, you're young, you're 18, 17, 18, 19-year-old. You're getting ready to transition into adulthood, and you're like, this sounds like something I can get behind. You want me to be selfish? I'm like, in some ways, yes. But I want you to learn what that means. And that is, listen, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself too, so that you can participate with your family, so that you can recognize the fact too, though, not only that you need to take care of yourself, but that your parents need to take care of themselves, your siblings. If you're in a relationship, that you all take care of yourselves and then come back together. Why? Because that health and wellness of you all doing that is going to make that relationship stronger. If you're not doing that, or if it's like, I would take care of myself and don't want to take care of you, that's a whole nother thing that we can walk through later. Talking about healthy relationships on another podcast. But ultimately, I want this to be a chance for you to sit there and say, oh, I'm valuable, I'm worth it, and I deserve to prioritize myself. So then, okay, great. We have this list of 5 things. I'll give you my list. Again, my list is happy, travel, money, family, and shopping. Those are the 5 things I have on my list. You have 5 things on your list. What I'd like you all to do, now that I have rattled your brain a little bit, is I would like you to put a line through one. Again, this is a place for you to stop this video, then do this activity, then come back. I'll give you a for example on mine. So let's say that I decided I was going to give up travel. So what I would do is I would go through there and be like, okay, so our group still wants to be happy. We still want to have money. We still want to have family, and we still want to shop. But we've decided to give up travel. And so then I make it a little bit over the top. And I'm like, so I've given up traveling anywhere. So apparently I'm going to stay home this whole time and not go anywhere and not do anything. So ultimately, I'm going to be a happy, rich family person that likes to shop but doesn't get to go out and go travel. So you see the silliness of it. It gives you a little bit of a hype, and it makes people get really interesting. So then I do the next thing. So please delete the second one. So now I've deleted shopping. So now, ultimately, I'm a happy person who's rich, and I have family, but I don't get to shop. I don't get to go out shopping, and I don't get to travel. So I'm pretty much staying at home, being happy with my money and my family. And I'm like, so I got 3 things left. So then we talk about that, and then a little bit, but then I'm like, okay, time to delete another one. In this case, I'm going to delete, I believe I'm going to delete my money. So now I'm a happy person. I don't get to travel. I'm poor because I gave up all my money. So I have no money, but I'm happily poor. So I have no money. And I don't get to shop because, of course, obviously I have no money, so I don't get to shop anyways. There we go. So I'm happy, and I have family. So now the last one that I need to pick is one of either happiness or family. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because when I start to talk about family and deleting stuff, people get really nervous because they think it's going to be like some sort of something you're putting out into the world. So I tell people, I said, when I talk about family, one of the ways that I do that is I look at it and go, okay, if we are deleting your family, we're not deleting them. What we're doing is we are simply sending them on a permanent vacation where you don't get to go with. So they get to go to an awesome vacation, wherever their dream vacation is, but you don't get to go with them. So ultimately, that's what it would be like. So you have that family. Is it family's going to be gone, or happiness is going to be gone? And this is hard because I love happy. And what if you're not happy? That means you're sad. So what if I get to be with my family, but I'm sad? Or what do I get if I get to, have my family, or what do I get to have happiness, but then my family's gone. So it's like, oh my gosh. So that's that push and pull and that discussion you're having as a group, and you're collectively walking through that. So I'm going to pick, I'm going to delete happiness. I gave up my happiness and I'm sad, but now I'm true. I don't get to travel. I'm poor and I don't get to shop, but I've got my family with me. So I've got my wife and kids and my brothers and sisters. So ultimately we're all together. So the core, my number one priority is family. My number one priority, our group's number one priority is family. The fun part about that is usually by the time we get down to that last essence of what it is the core of the group. And so we always utilize different things to make this happen. So if you have multiple groups that have that one thing, I'll take those one things and put them up in the room. And most times it is why it's why they're there. Now it gets really tricky. There's some things that I would probably watch out for. If someone puts air, water, or food, it becomes really interesting if they're like basic needs. So then you're like, you could die from it if you don't have those things. So you have to be aware of that. Also, spirituality is an interesting question. It does open up an interesting dialogue because, in some families, sometimes opens up an interesting dialogue because it doesn't mean that everybody has the same relationship with the family or relationship with their spirituality. So it opens up a conversation about a person's priorities. Now, if you're individually doing this, there's several other ways that you can use it. One, it's you being reflective and being honest about what it is that you prioritize and what you really think is your core, and this will get you there and get you to what you're looking for. The second way that you can do it, so you have this, you've done this, at this point, you guys are going to want to talk because you're going to want to talk about how it went, how you felt when you started deleting things, what you thought of my first presentation about you should be first. I mean, all the things. And then you can talk about if you're doing organizational priorities, you put organizational 5 things up there and have them start deleting it. Now, you as a leader, if you're the one facilitating this or in the room, need to be okay with the fact that they may delete something that is a priority for you. So, for example, I use college students a lot. Well, education would always come up, but they would delete it maybe first, maybe third. And so I would always tease them and be like, great, you cut me out like the very first thing. I'm gone. So because it really got down to the core and essence of what they wanted, which is they wanted money because they were there to get a better job, or they wanted family because that's where they were. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of family and connections and friends. So you could see these are snapshots in time of where we are. If it's an organization and they start cutting stuff and you're surprised by it, maybe you ought to have an open conversation with that organization and say, why did we cut the things we did when? And either why is it not a priority for the organization? Or is it the right priorities? Or what is it that we could look at that maybe can make it more valuable, that it becomes a priority? So that happens. In relationships, if you're putting relationship stuff down, you have to be very open to having conversations that are difficult. And not everyone is going to love that. But ultimately, it's probably the healthiest thing for you to sit there and say, well, these are our relationship priorities. Let's cut them down to the thing that is the essence, the most important to us. And then I will tell you, the other things are important. They're very important. But what you need to do is you need to understand where you put them and when. So how much time and energy are you putting into travel or happiness or money or family? So there's a chance for you to really look at what you are putting your time and energy into, because that's an investment. If you're doing it as far as you need to look at what your financial priorities are, it's pretty simple. Take out the basic needs, because you're going to have shelter, you're going to have a car, you're going to have food, you're going to have clothing and things like that. Now you can question those things as to how exorbitant they are, but ultimately, where do you spend your money? Where is your money going? Sit down, look at your bank account, find out where it's going. And then where does it fit? So if you're spending your extra money on going out to play all the time, maybe you're having a big parties all the time, and yet you're trying to create a business, putting money towards a business, guess what? Your priority is not your business. Even though you wish it were, it's not. If you're not investing or spending money or time or energy into that business, or doing something to make it happen, then it's not that priority. So you can look at your financials and look at that. When I go for a job interview, the way that I look at a company's priorities, it's not what a person tells me, because they're going to come in and tell me what they want to tell me to get me hired. I'm going to want to see their budget. Well, because your budget will tell me your priorities. If you're asking me to come in and be an advocacy person and deal with government, but you have no money in the government budget, I can look at that and your words don't mean anything. Why? Because if I don't see money in that government budget, then that means you don't prioritize that. That money could be in compensation over here, could be a deal with marketing. If it's in the marketing budget and I'm working on government affairs and I have no money, then I know your priority is marketing. It's not government affairs. So you need to make sure that your budget is reflecting your values and your priorities as well. So aligning all these things together is fantastic. Now understand, my research area is higher ed institutions. So if we're looking at like colleges and universities, it's the same situation. Why? Because if you look at their budgets, you look at where their investment is, where they're raising money and what they're building, that will tell you their priorities. Look at what they're doing. It's not what we're saying, it's what we're doing. So I think that's super important. I think that's a value to us. I also think of my time budget. Where am I spending my time? Am I spending my time being silly, not getting things done? Am I spending my time doing something else? Or am I investing in something? So for example, I'm putting a lot more time into this podcast. I'm putting a lot more time into my YouTube channel. Why? Because I teach, and I teach a lot of hours. That is a priority for me because I love to teach. I love teaching students. I love teaching adults. I think it's a lot of fun. But I also have this side that is also a priority for me to teach others. So for example, this podcast, I'm not only going to send out to you, I'm going to make sure that all of my former students know it exists. Why? Because they will get a refresher, and some of them are in their 30s. I'm like, they have been doing this for a long time. So it gives them a chance to kind of review and do this again, and it will bring back memories for them. I said it really well. So I love that this is an opportunity for me to share with you. I love that I get to support my community, support my state, and support everything around me. So this gives me a chance to put energy into this. Now, to be clear, my wife is taken care of. First, I'm taken care of because I'm taking care of my needs and working on things I need to get done and making sure that I'm being healthy and making good choices and trying to be better. Because you know what? Honest to God, that doesn't always happen. And when you mess up, you know what you do? Acknowledge the fact that you messed up and then do something different. And I messed up and I did something different, and now I'm better this year and I'm looking forward to this year. So this is something that I think is important for every individual to better yourself, is to acknowledge your mistakes, to acknowledge things that are difficult, but then to keep going forward. So that next thing that we're going to be doing is always looking at, okay, how have I done? And so now that I've given you the priorities lesson, now that I can show you that you can look at organizations and what they need to do, I really want you all to take some time and really reflect on this particular project. Did it work for you? Does it work for you? And I wouldn't say respond right away. You want to talk about the process and reflect. That's important. But don't respond to the content right away, because again, it could be raw. It could be something that's very difficult and you're like going, I feel like he was telling me off. I'm really not. I'm really just giving you a direct thought. And when we think of things, and I'm going to bring this to your attention too. So people bring out clergy a lot. They bring up a lot about pastors and people like that. And they say, well, they sacrifice the whole time. And I'm like, if they're good at what they do the same thing when it comes to prioritizing. Their spirituality runs throughout. And I believe that for everybody. Whatever your tradition is, it runs throughout, is ingrained in who you are, as part of who you are. Or if you are non-spiritual, it is the way that you live your life is ingrained in who you are. So that's not an easy one to take out of you. So that's a little bit different. But even in that instance, pastors need to take care of themselves first. Why? Because if they don't, they cannot take care of their churches. And if you don't know, they have a hard job. Their job is very difficult because they're not only a pastor on Sunday, they're a pastor 24 hours a day, every day, all week long. So if there's a situation that comes up, they've got to be ready, mentally ready, prepared for all the things that are happening beyond the politics and like building their churches. Some people, it's a smaller church, but it might be a more like familial church. For others, they're building like mega churches, so it's like a business. So ultimately, you have to take care of all of those aspects, and you need to make sure that you are ready, mentally fit, and able to get this thing done. Because if you can't, then you're no good for your church. So even pastors who are selfless and doing amazing work must take care of themselves. Nurses, teachers, all the care workers that are out there. Listen, you need to put your priorities first. Why? Because if you do that, you're better for your patients, for your students, for the people that you serve. So please do that and find out what that means to you. So then there's the other part of it where like, how do I take care of myself? Well, a couple things you can do. One, make a list of things that you love to do. Now, be clear, this is tough. Why? Because a lot of times we don't know what we love to do. We know what our spouse loves to do, what other people love to do, because we just go do that. So you need to sit down and think about, what do I personally love to do? So if I love to watch a YouTube video and learn something new, then that's going to be the thing that I'm going to do for myself. Is it that I like to go for walks? Is it that I like to take, bubble baths? Is it that you like to go have an adult beverage? Is it, what is it that do you like to go drive in the country? Do you like to travel? I mean, do you want just, serenity listening to music? Maybe you want to go watch live music. So each of those things gives you an opportunity to find out what it is that I love to do as a person. And then I will do those things for myself. And then I and my spouse or I and my significant other will also work together and do that, so that we create this healthy environment, healthy possibility for the people that are around us. So this podcast is a little bit shorter, but with the stops in it, it will take quite a bit longer. So my goal is to have it all take about an hour for you to do this. My hope is that you've gained something from this, that you've learned something from this, and that you take away something from this. And even if you just look around at people around you and go, I hope they take themselves first. I hope that they put themselves first. Look at your parents and say, I hope they put themselves first. Why? Because if they do that, it's so healthy for them. It's so healthy for me. It's so healthy for my sons to see that. And I will teach them as they get older to put themselves first, put their spouses second, and then put their children third, because it makes healthier children. It makes healthier families. It makes healthier society, healthier businesses. And I think one of the greatest things we can do is to take care of ourselves and put ourselves first. Thank you. And by all means, comment below and share this with everyone. I have no doubt this will be the most subscribed and shared podcast that I have, because it is absolutely life-changing. See you soon.